Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. And today I am going to show you a full traffic circuit pattern of a Cessna 172 mic. Cessna 172 mic here at Rpus or Romeo Papa Uniform Sierra or at San Fernando Community Airport here in the Philippines, La Union. So what I'm going to show you in this video today is we're going to perform such procedures like starting engine run up, normal takeoff checklist, normal takeoff continuation, and the traffic circuit pattern itself, and the pre-landing checklist up until the landing and securing aircraft. Okay, so without further ado, let's start the aircraft. Okay, so we will start by checking the before starting engine checklist, but we will skip it for now since we don't have the feature of 360 inspection. Let's move on to the starting engine checklist. Okay, so disclaimer, the checklist that I'm using varies from flight school that you're in, so it is different from what you are using right now or will be using when you're in the flight school. Okay, so let's check. So the starting engine checklist, let's start with the mixture being rich. Okay, you can see the mixture here. Carburetor heat is on cold, carburetor heat is inoperative in X-Plane 11, and master switch. So in this procedure, we will clear the area from left to right. So clear left, clear front, then clear up, then clear right, and you will shout clear prop, and you will turn on the master switch. Master switch is on. Next, beacon lights. Beacon lights is here. Beacon light is on. Check. Primer is as required, but we don't have any primer here in our 172, so we will skip this. And next, we will check the throttle. Move it to an 8-inch. Okay, next, ignition switch. So we will start the aircraft by switching the ignition right here. So we will check it by magneto. So switching to right magneto, left magneto, and both magnetos and ignition switch start. Okay, now you're hearing the engine. Okay, so let's move on. Avionics switch is on. Then next, we put the throttle to 1-2. So here's the RPM meter of our engine. So as you can see, it's already 1,200 RPM. And engine instruments. So we will check the oil pressure is on if it's on green, and oil pressure if it's on green. So as you can see here, the oil temperature is on the rising and oil pressure is on green. Okay, so next we will check the time. So we will disregard the time for now, since so the time here is in local time is 0217, so it's like, I don't know, 10 a.m. in the morning here in our local time. So we'll check the radios. So this will vary between the airport that you are in, but for now we will tune it on the VATSIM frequency, which is 122.8. Okay, next we will retract the flaps, which is already retracted. Okay, so starting engine checklist is complete. Let us move on to engine run up. So engine run up checklist, doors and windows is closed and locked. So let's pretend it's already locked. Parking brakes is set. Here's the parking brakes. Flight control, so we will show the yoke and we will do the call outs in checking the flight controls. So first, applying control column to the left, we will see that the left aileron here is moving upwards. So we will say the left aileron is up, and checking the right area, which is the right aileron, which is moving downwards. So we will say right aileron is down. So on the other side, applying control column to the right, right aileron is up and left aileron is down. Okay, now applying backward pressure on the yoke, and let us see the elevator. As you can see, the elevator is moving upwards, so elevator is going up, and applying forward pressure on the yoke, elevator is going down. So now next, let's check the rudders. So applying right rudder, so we can see that the rudder is deflecting to the right. and applying left rudder, rudder is deflecting to the left. So at the end of each and every flight controls, you will say, "Sir, flight controls are free and correct when moving all the primary flight controls." Okay, so next, let's move on to the flight instruments. So we will check first the six-pack of the 172. So let us check first the airspeed indicator, which is should be below 40 and at the middle. Let's check. And next, the attitude indicator, which is wherein the aircraft miniature should be on the horizon, the white line in the middle. Let's check. And next is the altimeter, which is set to the field elevation. So the field elevation here in San Fernando is 15 feet. So we will just make sure that it's 15. And next, the vertical speed indicator, which is we will check if it's in 0 or slightly below 0, or it's high, slightly high. But in our case, it's slightly below 0. Next, the heading indicator, which is should be synced to the magnetic compass, which is this one. So as you can see here, it's pointed at heading 240, and here it is pointed at around, I guess, 100 or less than 100. So we will check it first. So I'm turning the heading indicator knob towards there. So as you can see here, it's pointed near at 100. So to check if it's correct, you can press letter D on X-plane, but I don't know if it works on other simulators. So press D, and you can see it moved. So that says it shows that it is properly calibrated from the magnetic compass. High moving. And the last one is the turn coordinator, which is the aircraft miniature is on leveled wings. But in this case, I'm not sure if it's unleveled, and I don't know how to adjust it. We will set it as that, and the wall center or the inclinometer should be at the middle or the center. Okay, so flight instruments check and set. Fuel selector valve is on both, so we can see here that the fuel selector valve is on both, not right, not left, but on both. Next, we will check the mixture if it's rich again. And elevator trim should be set to takeoff setting, so we will apply backward pressure on the wheel. Oh, okay. So in this case, we will not look in this pitch trim wheel. Instead, we will look at the back and apply backward pressure. As you can see, we can see the trimming, the trims. Here's the elevator and here's the trim. So from here, we can set the trim. So it's better to point to match where the elevator is. So like this, for example, I'm trimming the elevator up there. So as you can see, it's perfectly matched. And you should say elevator trim is set to takeoff setting. So next, we will test the throttle, wherein the throttle setting should be increased to 1800 RPM. So increase the throttle 15, 16, 17, 18. Next, we will check the magnetos if there is a differential between magnetos by turning off the magneto one by one. So we will check the right magneto, which is 2 clicks to the left, 1, 2, to observe the drop in the RPM, which is around 100 RPM or so. And we will put it back to both, 1, 2. As you can see, it went back to 1800 RPM. And we will check the left magneto, which is 1 click to the left, 1, and as you can see, it's on another 100 RPM drop, and we will turn it back to both. Okay, so as you can see, there is no differential between magnetos, so the RPM should not exceed between 125 RPM, so it should be at least less than 125, or either 50 differential RPM between magnetos. Okay, so let's check the carburetor heat, which is again inoperative in X-plane. Checking the instruments, so as you can see, the oil temperature is now on green and oil pressure is on green. Okay, let's check now the ammeter, which is this one, the amperes, to see if the airplanes or the aircraft is charging. So we will check it through the flaps by deploying flaps 1. So flaps 1, you can see that there's a sudden drop of the ammeter, which is to show that the ammeter is discharging and charging. And we will put it back once again. Okay, so ammeter is checked. Suction gauge, you can see that suction gauge is here, which is on green. It's just beside the ammeter. And there. We will now move on to the throttle. So now for the throttle, we will put it to idle. So the throttle idle power setting should be at 700 for Cessna 172. So efficient throttle idle. Not sure if this is the right calibration, but let's pretend that's in 700. There. And we will now check the mixture check. We will put it to idle and cut off, then we'll push it back to reach. So mixture check, idle, cut off, back to reach. As you can see, the RPM is going back to 700 RPM. Okay, next we will move on to throttle. We will put it back to 1000 to 1200 RPM. Okay, and nav lights. Nav lights is on. We will check nav lights. Okay. Okay, so friction lock. I cannot. It is again inoperative, so we will just pretend it's adjusted. And transponder is on standby. This is the transponder of the 172. Okay, standby and safety briefing. So the safety briefing depends on what flight school you're in. So in this case, I will recite the safety briefing of our flight school. So safety briefing is checked. We will move on to the harnesses, which is here. So it is set. Contact tower. So we will pretend that we are connected with BATSIM. So we will contact the tower. So San Fernando radio RPC 1172 Sierra Papa using our call sign 172 Sierra Papa. So San Fernando radio RPC 172 Sierra Papa will taxi to runway 19er for touch and go. Okay, so let's pretend that the radio contacted us and we will taxi to runway 19er for touch and go. Okay, so we will check the taxi lights if it's on. Taxi lights is on, shocks are off. You will see there's no shock, but we'll pretend it's off. Area, we will clear the area again, clearing left, clear front, clear up, clear right, area is clear, parking brakes is released. So from here we will test the brakes. So we will do such callouts like this. So testing brakes, holding brakes, releasing brakes, aircraft is in motion, applying backward pressure to yoke, throttle to idle, and applying brakes. Okay, so again we will put the RPM back to 1200 and we will give the controls to our flight instructor or to whoever is in our right seat. We'll also check the controls as well. So before that I will say your controls and he will say my controls to prevent human error. Okay, so let's pretend the controls are checked, the brakes are checked. Now we will proceed to taxiing to runway 19er. So every action that I will make, I will call out. So for example, I will release the brakes, applying left rudder, which will make turn to the aircraft, and I will maintain taxiway center line and decreasing power if the aircraft is moving too fast, applying brakes to slow down, and at the circle we will stop, because from here we will check the normal takeoff checklist or the holding point checklist. So let us check Master switch is on, ignition switch on both, carburetor heat is on cold, mixture is fully rich, wing flaps is on 1002, 1003. Fuel selector valve on both, and strobe landing lights and taxi lights, correction, strobe landing lights and transponder is on. So we will check it, all of them, and we will now report the radio. So for example, San Fernando radio RPC 172 Sierra Papa on holding point for runway 19er. So the radio will now then continue to let us in the active runway, which is runway 19er. So let's pretend we have the clearance. So we will continue maintaining the taxiway center line, and from here we will check the runway if it's clear. So checking left, checking right. Active is clear, and proceeding to the active. So we will just follow the taxiway center line. If it's too fast, decrease RPM. And from here we will hold left rudder. Make sure we are at the end, but not too much. Increasing RPM, applying brakes, because we will turn at the runway threshold. Okay, from here we will turn, applying right rudder. Applying right rudder. And at the runway designator line, markings rather, we will hold the brakes, and we will report to the radio that we are ready for departure. So San Fernando radio RPC 172 Sierra Papa, ready for departure for runway 19er, touch and go. So once the radio tells us that we are cleared for takeoff, we will now read it back. So cleared for takeoff RPC 172 Sierra Papa. So we will now perform the normal takeoff checklist, which is throttle 1700 RPM, check. Engine instruments, check are all on green. All temperature is on green. All pressure is on green. Clearing runway from left, clear front, clear up, clear right. Area is clear. Then brakes released. Then throttle to full power. Then maintaining center line. Heels on the floor. Airspeed is alive. 40 knots. 50, 55 knots fill up. Okay, so we are now airborne. So San Fernando radio RPC 172 Sierra Papa, airborne. So let's pretend we're going to report at base. So San Fernando radio, report at base for runway 19er RPC 172 Sierra Papa. So we are now at 200 feet. And we will now tap brakes. I forgot. Tap brakes. So 300 feet. So landing lights and taxi lights is off. Oh, I forgot. Landing lights and taxi lights is off. Transponder is set to altitude. And wing flaps is retracted. So at 400 feet, since we passed it, we will check if the area is clear. So clear left, clear front, clear up, clear right. Area is clear. At 500 feet, we will initiate crosswind heading 280. So at current heading, we are at 190, turning right. So at 700 feet, we will push and decrease power to 20 to maintain 700 feet. We will maintain coordination between the aircraft and the rudders. So approaching the start heading, which is 280, and we will now level off. Okay, this one is good. So now we will now check the airspeed, which is at 700, or I mean 80 knots and 700. And we will check our reference point to see if we will turn downwind. Okay, so now reference point reached, turning right downwind, clearing area, clear left, clear front, clear up, clear right, area is clear, turning right, downwind heading 010. So power back to 20. Pitching up to maintain 700 at 80 knots. And approaching desired heading and leveling off. Now that we are at the early downwind, or initial downwind, we should briefly check if the airspeed is correct, or if we are to perform the pre-landing checklist. So the pre-landing checklist is like this. Pre-landing checklist: seat belts, harness is set, fuel filter valve on post, mixture is rich, engine instruments are on green, landing lights is on, and taxi light airspeed is at 80. Altimeter should be at 700, so decreasing power, and power setting is at 1900 or 1850. So the brakes will test and set. The pre-landing checklist is complete. We will now check the runway if it's on the half strut of our aircraft. Then at the threshold, we will initiate flaps 1. Okay, so flaps 1, deploying flaps 1, 1001, 1002, 1003. As you can see, the aircraft goes up and will later go down. So we will now maintain at 70 knots, 700 feet, since we are now at a dirty configuration. So we will check our next reference point, which is the antennas. It should be a beam with the strut. So we are increasing altitude, we will increase power. Okay. So it's once a beam. We will now turn right base. So clearing area, clear left, clear front, clear up, clear right, area is clear, turning right, base. So we will now report since we are told to report at base. So Sat Fernando radio RPC 172 Sierra Papa, turning base, heading 100. Okay, now we will now deploy flaps 2 since we're turning 1001, 1002. And as you can see, the airspeed is dropping, so we will increase the airspeed to catch it up. And oops, we will now correct our heading, which should be 100. Okay, so we will now maintain 65 knots for flaps 2. We will check our next reference point, which is the runway. So I will pitch down to maintain 700. As you can see, the runway is here. We can now turn final. So turning right final, clearing area, clear left, clear up, clear up, clear right, area is clear, turning right, final. So from here we will now decrease RPM since we are now on our approach. And we should maintain a BSI of 300 feet per minute or 500 feet. Decreasing RPM to 1800 RPM. So we will now correct our alignment. Correcting alignment. Should maintain 65 knots. And decreasing power to 17. Increasing power to 15. Maintaining BSI of 300 feet or 500 feet. 60 knots, applying power. Maintain 65. Increasing power. Applying power. So from the runway threshold, we will make sure if the aircraft will sure to make the runway, and until that we will chop the aircraft. Okay. So runway threshold, sure to make, power chop. Power chop means throttle idle. Okay, so let's aim at the aiming point. So break the glide and round down. Great landing. Okay, we will now maintain center line with tracking flaps to flaps 1 and full power. Okay, so airspeed is alive, 40 knots, 50, F5, swing up. Again, tap brakes if airborne. So we will now report again. San Fernando Rpus 172 Sierra Papa, airborne, and we will now report at base. Now we will now try to perform a full stop landing. Okay, so let's check our magnetic compass. 200 feet, wing flaps is retracted, land light is up. Oops. 400 feet, clearing area, clear left, clear up, clear right, area is clear. 500 feet, initiating crosswind, heading to 0. And at 600 feet, we are now pinching down and increasing power to 2000. And stabilizing, approaching desired heading, leveling off at 280. From there we will pitch up to maintain 700 feet at 80 knots. Okay, we'll check our reference point once again. Okay, reference point is checked, turning right, downwind heading 010. So once again, clear left, clear front, clear up, clear right, area is clear, turning right, downwind heading 010. So the increasing power to maintain 80 knots at 700 feet. Then we are decreasing altitude, pitching up, approaching desired altitude, and leveling off. So power back to 20. And from here we will check the pre-landing checklist. So seat wheels harness is set, fuel sights remove on post, mixture is rich, engine instruments are on green, landing lights is on. And airspeed at 80, altimeter 700, and power to 20. Brakes test. Pre-landing checklist is complete. We will now decrease power to maintain 80 knots at 700 feet. So checking the reference point, which is our next is the runway threshold. From there we will deploy flaps 1, deploying flaps 1, 1001, 1002, 1003. And pitching down to neutralize. And now maintaining 70 knots at 700 feet. Our next reference point will be the antennas to initiate downwind, base. So increasing power to maintain 70 at 700. Okay, once it is abeam, we will now turn base. Clearing area, clear left, clear front, clear up, clear right, area is clear, turning right, base. So we will now report San Fernando Rpus 172 Sierra Papa, turning base. So from here we will also deploy flaps 2, deploying flaps 2, 1001, 1002. And we are decreasing airspeed, so we will add power to maintain 65. Or to pitch down to maintain 700 at 65. And correcting heading, which is 100. Okay, pitching down, checking reference point. Power back to 20. 65. Airport reference is reached, turning final. Clearing left, clear front, clear up, clear right, area is clear. Applying power, 21, 65. Since we are at our approach, we will decrease our PM to 19. now correct the alignment. Correcting alignment. Increasing RPM to 16. Increasing to 15. Checking alignment. Alignment is good. Airspeed is good. Because I should be at 300 feet. Reaching up. Flying power. Do not pay attention to the poppy lights since there are no poppy lights in real life here in San Fernando. So we are now approaching at the runway threshold. Power at 15. And sure to make a firm power jump. And break the glide. Aiming point. Round out. And great landing. And applying brakes. Applying brakes. To slow down the aircraft. Okay, and we will now report to the radio. So San Fernando radio RPC 172 Sierra Papa landed on runway 19er, will exit the nearest taxiway. So flying left rudder, flying power. We will now exit the south taxiway. Okay, increasing power. So we will now exit and enter the ramp of San Fernando. So from here we will now report San Fernando radio RPC 172 Sierra Papa terminating flight plan. And our last but not least checklist is the securing aircraft checklist, which will be performed once the aircraft is parked safely at the desired ramp. So let's imagine that the aircraft is parked here, applying brakes, using RPM. Okay, so we will now secure the aircraft. So securing aircraft, parking brakes is set. Set. Throttle to 12 or 1200 RPM. And 2 minutes for cooldown. And checking radios, electrical switches are off except beacon and avionics. So radios off, avionics not off. Beacon lights no, landing lights off, nav lights, strobe lights, transponder is off. And check throttle to idle after cooldown. So pretend 2 minutes is already over and throttle to idle. Make sure check idle cutoff. Then back to reach. Checking throttle idle power setting should be 700. So we will try to ground the ignition. So ignition set to off, then back to both. So ignition off and back to both. There, that's the correct way to perform the ignition grounding. The next mixture is fully rich. Throttle to 18 for 30 seconds. Increasing throttle. Oops, forgot to engage the brakes. I'm sorry. 17 to 18 for 30 seconds. Magnetos check. Checking magnetos. Checking right magneto. 2 clicks to the left. Checking the stabilization. Back to boost. 1, 2. Checking another one. Check left. Check back to boost. And no differential between magnetos. Next, throttle to 1, 2. Wing flaps down to 40. So let's expect that there are no more other flights after me, so we will retract the flaps. and mixture idle cutoff, and we will observe the profiler is stop and ignition switch is off, and beacon lights in avionics is off, and master switch is off. And I guess that's how you do it. So that's the full entirety of the traffic circuit pattern, from starting engine checklist up to securing aircraft. So if you have any more questions, feel free to comment at the comment section below. And again, disclaimer, it varies between your flight school. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye bye.